Hello, here we are for the final hot lap of the series, number 24 out of 24. For the first time, we've arrived at the end, and where else to round it off with our noisy neighbors here at Singapore. Singapore, well, I kind of like this track, but as we know in the game, traction and all that stuff, it is super difficult to, well, let's just put it, drive in this game with such broken traction. Anyway, setup for Singapore, naturally you're gonna expect it to be a very high downforce circuit. As you can see, 50, 44 wings. You're gonna need all the cornering speed you can get around here. Otherwise, you're not going to gain any lap time. You might want to go for maybe you think let's go 5 lower wings or whatnot. Yeah, sure, it will help you to defend on the straights, but in the corners you will be so much slower, so much so that if you're somewhat on an equal pace with someone, they'll stay with you in the corners easily, and then on the straights they'll just have to send it on the inside or around the outside. With more downforce, they will make the overtake stick, and your race pace is going to be worse with lower wings. Anyway, 50-44 is where you want to start off, regardless if it's dry or wets. Probably you want to go full 50-50 wings around here. Definitely 50-50, no other choice other than that. In the dries, you can stick with 50, 44, maybe even 45, 43 if you want more rotation, 45 if you want more stability. Either way would work out. Transmission, we are going with 55-50. Again, it's like a magical number here, magic bullet. The only adjustment I'd recommend making is probably 51 off throttle when you're going for a race run, or maybe going from qualifying to race. You want to up this to not 60, you want to up this to 51, and in the race you can usually go up a little bit higher on the on throttle to make sure the rears don't slide too much under acceleration. This will help you to preserve the rears as well. Pretty much like this, it helps the rear to slide less, provided you are smoother on the acceleration in a race condition. Normally you are, because you're going slower, you're following cars, you're managing your tire wear and all that. You don't want to overheat the tires, so it's natural that you're going to be driving a lot smoother in the race. In qualifying, you can always yeet all the corners and gain some time here and there. 55-50 is a good balance pretty much for all tracks, all cars, all conditions. So again, it's a magic bullet that you may want to use. Another magic bullet is the suspension geometry. Right, left. So minimum camber, minimum toe, super stable, super nice to drive around here with that settings. And I didn't even have to touch the rear toe to get some better traction or whatever, because we have so much downforce already, and it pretty much gives us all the tools that we need to be quick out of the corners. Suspension, this is kind of a controversial one around here. Suspension, you can always run whatever you want. Same with the roll bars. I've started with 1-1-1-1, similar to the world record setup. It started off like this. This is the world record setup, suspension setup. Now the reason why they are on 11-11 ride height is pretty simple. That's so you can ride a lot of the curbs in throughout the whole track. Actually, if you can cut some of these corners, ride the curbs, and still be equally smooth and get a straighter exit, you will gain time. But it is very difficult to nail that, especially given how the curbs react in this game. If you're on 60 fps, maybe you'll find it a bit easier. If you're on more, like I do now, sometimes I change back to 60 fps just to try it out. It may react differently. Now the sweet spot I found where you can run somewhat of a high ride height and not get away with any like understeer or sluggishness in the car is probably like 8-8, 7-7, everything you're fine. But 11-11 in Singapore is definitely a good shot. You don't lose any time on the straights, you don't lose any time in the corners, which is somewhat weird. Some comments have been going around that what matters most about the ride height is the difference between the front and the rear. Whether you're on 1-1 or you're on 11-11, you're gonna have the same amount of cornering or whatever. But again, let's keep it simple. 11-11 is probably where you want to start off. If you feel the car is sluggish, you can always go down to a point where you start to feel like the curbs that you take are throwing the car off balance. If they are, then go back higher. Either way, you're not going to lose any time here. It doesn't matter if you are running low drag or high drag setup here, it doesn't matter. Suspension, again, like I said, you want to start off with 1-1-1-1, the softest possible, so that soft fronts will give you a lot of turn in, soft rears will give you a lot of stability mid corner and on the exit as well, and throughout the whole cornering phase. And if you feel like on entry the car is just a little bit not too pointy, a little too pointy, or under the brakes you feel like the car is just snapping a bit while you're trail braking, you can always go up on the suspension. This will help to reduce the amount of load that is going to the front of the car, so preventing the front from say braking too much, and that may allow you to have a better entry into a corner, which sounds counterintuitive. Usually you want more entry, but sometimes if the car is too pointy, you want to reduce the pointiness of the car. Same with the anti-roll bars. If on the mid corner phase the car turns in too much, like with minimal input, and the car just oversteers, you may want to increase the roll bar a little bit. Similarly, on the exit of corners, when you are going on power again, if the car snaps on acceleration, you can always go up on the anti-roll bar. This will keep the car a lot more stable. Usually a combination of going one on the front suspension and anti-roll bar can work. Sometimes just going up on the anti-roll bar will work. So just take it one click at a time until you come to a point where you feel like you're not gaining anymore, you are maybe losing a lot more time, so you want to go back to something that is a lot more likable. So my preference here was 3-1-3-1 suspension, and on the right hand I was just experimenting with crazy stuff, and the lowest I could go was 3-3. 2-2 and 1-1 is almost undrivable. 3-3 is just drivable as is in the default setup, the max downforce preset. So 3-3 is drivable, but you cannot be taking the curb. So remind yourself, if you are going to be running a very low ride height like this, 3-3, 4-4, or even 5-5, something like this, you cannot take the curbs as aggressively as you want. So again, you want to start off with 11-11. In the case where you are defending or attacking someone and you have to take those curbs awkwardly to make an overtake work, you don't want your car to be doing pirouettes on the curbs or getting even beached on the curbs. So start off 11-11, you are going to be fine throughout the whole race. And also works in the rain, so high ground clearance and whatnot. Yeah, it works out. Brakes 150. You don't really have to worry about the tire wear around here, I'd say, although the tires do go off quite a lot on the soft tires, so you may want to avoid that in the race. You may want to go with mediums hards or hard mediums. Overtaking can be difficult, so if you are higher up in the grid, you may want to go for mediums first, and then just get on the second stint on the hards and clear everyone. Brake pressure 100 always, you don't need to reduce this. Brake bias, you can go up to 51 or 52 depending on how much tire wear you're having. If your rears are wearing out a lot more than the fronts, there's two causes. One, maybe the setup is very loose, a lot of oversteer in the setup, which means the rears are going to wear out more, or you're having a lot of wheel spin on exits, you are going too rough on the exits. So it's either you fix your driving or you help yourself by raising the brake bias by 51 or 52. That will help the rears to not use that much life, and rather it uses the front tires more to slow down the car. You also want to consider using 50 in the entire qualifying, because then that way you are giving yourself maximum rotation in the qualifying session. Throughout the corners, you'll be much quicker to get the car turned in. Tire wear wise, if I remember correctly, normally Singapore is pretty harsh on the front right tire and the rear right tire, basically the right tires, because it's an anti-clockwise track. So you may want to look out for those two tires first, whichever is burning up or wearing out too much. So keep in mind. Tyre pressures, again, no magic bullet here. Well, the magic bullet is just run minimum pressures to start off, and in your race condition you can always experiment with going higher on the rear pressures. fronts, keep it at minimum so that you get more front end grip, more mechanical grip around here, which you will need. And the rears, you can go a little bit higher if you feel you need a little bit of stability on the exits or while cornering. But since you already have so much downforce, you will probably not feel the need of running any higher tire pressure. The only benefit is of running higher tire pressure. One, it's more it's going to reduce your tire life, not reduce tire wear, so you have increased tire life. So say, you know, something like this, 2 clicks higher than default is going to be slightly better in terms of prolonging your tire life. If you want to go for that, you can always consider that. And also temperatures, when you go higher on the tire pressures, your carcass temperatures will go up a little bit. So if you keep it around 93, 94, 95, like I always say, is the sweet spot. Any lower than that is still okay. 88 to 95 is the sweet spot, and 96, 97 is still okay. But once you reach 98, 99 and 100, the grip starts to get a bit sketchy, and beyond 100 is unsavable. So you want to make sure the tire pressure that you're running is absolutely correct, because if you're having a very good setup, even an esports level setup, but your pressures are wrong, you're not gonna have any pace in the race. So there we go. Singapore rounded off 50-44 wings, a high downforce, very high downforce. 45 if you want more stability, 43 if you want more rotation. For the wets, go full out 50-50. And then transmission 55-50. In the race you can use 60-51 or 55-51. On throttle you can always adjust through your MFD in the race. Suspension geometry, minimum camber, minimum toe. Suspension, start off with 3131, 1111 ride height, 150 brakes, 51 if your race are wearing on a lot more in the race, and start off with minimum pressures, and there you go. For the wets, like I said, the only changes you may want to make is 50-50 wings, and then keep the off throttle at 50, and there's nothing much you can do other than just driving a bit more cautiously. Perhaps you may want to go down on the suspension and anti-roll bar if you have park firmware turned off, or if it's park firmware enabled, you may want to go for a wet ready setup like this, and then you can still drive this in the drives, which is still pretty good. So that's the benefit of it. And yeah, there you go. Singapore's done, and we are at the end of the series. So thank you everyone for tuning in till today for all these 24 setups. I'm pretty sure there are some setups that are slightly outdated, so if you need some updated ones, you can always join the Discord server, link below or wherever it is, and you can always request for setups over there, and I can share them with you. And hope you have a good race with a few months remaining to this horrible game. Let's hope we end it on a high, and we'll see you in the next video, I guess, whenever that is. Maybe next game, maybe next week, I don't know. Bye bye.